you sit down to eat. Grateful for all who made Thanksgiving complete.
With the lowest prices for over 30 years, you'll always find what you love and love what you find. Only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21.
KCUB Tucson, a Cumulus media station. We are the sports station that Tucson turns to for all the latest news when it comes to Arizona men's basketball, along with all the play-by-play action. We are Wildcats Radio 1290. Live from the CNWT.
From the what? Central Northwest Tucson. Duh.
It's DK on the Sports Tip with your host, David Kelly.
Radio. Just when I thought I was out, they drug me back in.
Featuring J.W. Madden.
Don't tell me about flip-flops, man. I'm a native.
And Cricket, getting you home with traffic and weather.
Camp on Melt Lemon, not in the left lane on the freeway.
Here we go! And now, a man who has not one, but three first names, David Scott Kelly.
And a great Wednesday afternoon to you. Hump Day. The Arizona Wildcat football team now ranked 17th in the college football playoff rankings as they get set to welcome in the Utah Utes, trying to stay on that path to a potential Pac-12 championship game. And again, who would have thunk that when we started talking Arizona football all the way back in August? But that's where we are. Arizona basketball ranked third in the nation. 3 straight wins to start this season and getting set to take on Belmont and UT Arlington this weekend. Belmont late Friday night. UT Arlington late Saturday or Sunday afternoon. So with that reminder, we will not have any Sunday night football for you on our station this Sunday because we will have Arizona basketball at 4 p.m. on Sunday against UT Arlington. I don't know that we've played. That does not sound like a school we've played, at least not since I've been here, UT Arlington. But we'll talk some Arizona basketball in this hour. Ernie Kent, the longtime Pac-12 basketball coach with the Oregon Ducks and the Washington State Cougars, is going to join us. He was on the call Monday night as the Wildcats knocked off Southern 97-59. He got to call that game with his son, Jordan Kent, who we've had on the program before, talking football and basketball. Jordan has been on the call of 2 of the early season home games. He was on the call of the opener against Morgan State with Matt Muehlbach, and then on the call Monday night with his dad, Ernie Kent, who, interestingly, J-Dub, he calls EK
right
on the broadcast. Yeah. I thought that's interesting because, I was like, I can't imagine doing a game with my dad and then, like, what would I call him? I mean, for me, I would think I would just call him, like, Pop or Dad or something, but he calls his dad EK. So I'm interested to hear from Ernie just kind of how they came up with that.
Yeah, that's got to be like my nickname was JW from the start because my dad is John William as well. So when the phone rings and they say phone's for John, who's that for? Right. So maybe it's just done something as simple as that. But I don't know. Pop's dad, Mr. Kent, definitely not appropriate. EK, I think that's a good moniker to call your dad if you're doing a broadcast. I love that. I love the fact that they got a chance to do that broadcast together. I don't know that I've ever heard them. I've heard each of them obviously individually many, many times. I don't know that I've ever heard them together as a duo.
Yeah, I don't know if they've ever done an Arizona game before together. I know they worked over the weekend. They did the Arizona State-Texas Southern game. I'm not sure if – I know we've talked to Jordan, and he lives up in the Valley. I'm not sure maybe Ernie might be living there now or where his home base is.
Doesn't everybody live there now?
Pretty much.
Everybody does.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons why we mentioned earlier this week that Arizona State Athletics Director Ray Anderson resigned this week. And so they're going to be looking for a new athletics boss. And I was talking to somebody about that the last 24 hours. And I keep saying, I've always said that to me, Arizona State is a sleeping giant, but they just never gotten to that giant status for whatever reason, because everybody lives in Phoenix.
Yeah, again, I think they have the similar issue that the U of A does where, Phoenix is now 3.5 million people, if you include all the areas around there, something like that. But how many of those people have any allegiance to the city of Phoenix? It's a lot about the weather. LA's too crowded, really. If you really want to break down why Phoenix has blown up in the last 20 years, right, it's because a lot of those developments outside, talk about Scottsdale and all the convention areas and where they've built all the arenas in the last 15, 20 years. It's just a lot of transplants again. And so I believe it's simple. If the Arizona State Sun Devils have a top 10 football team, they're going to have fans in the seats. If they're doing well in basketball, they're going to have fans in the seats. But that support for a 1-8 football team, right? Or that support for a basketball team that's not going to sniff the NCAA tournament, when you don't have that team on the court or on the field, the fan base diminishes because you're talking about people who want to go see good team play, not go to root for the team they've been rooting for 50 years or whatever that is in all the small college towns around America. So it's tough. I mean, they're both those programs that haven't exactly. There was a lot of hype with Herm Edwards, right? There was a couple of sparks, but that fizzled out pretty quickly, and that seems to be the case for all the administrations there and all the coaching staffs that have been there for the past 15, 20 years. Bobby Hurley started out really strong, had a couple of potential. Remember when they beat Kansas on the road?
Yeah,
and that was a big win. Building momentum off of that, getting recruits to come and play for them. It just hasn't panned out that way. They've done the transfer route on the basketball side as well. So as far as the entire athletic department is concerned, it's just tough without sustained success. It's tough when you don't string together a series of successful seasons to pack those fans 70% capacity, 80%, 90% year in, year out that are loyal regardless of what the product on the field looks like.
Yeah, and and that was just a few years ago. It wasn't that they went down and beat Kansas. I think that was right around before the pandemic, maybe in that, I believe that was the non-conference of 2019.
Yep. It's awesome.
That happened?
The Sun Devils are one of only 4 teams that have a winning record against the Jayhawks.
Wow.
They're, I think, 7-6, something like that. Barely squeaked over that 500 mark.
520-848-1290, 520-848-1290 is the number for you to get in on this program. Today, we are going to talk a lot of Arizona women's athletics today. The ladies on the basketball floor won last night against San Diego, so they are on their way now. In fact, they should probably have arrived in paradise. The battle for the Atlantis in Nassau, the Bahamas, where they will begin play on Saturday. They'll take on Memphis, the Memphis Tigers, the Lady Tigers. I used to live in Memphis. And then they will likely potentially have a second-round matchup with Ole Miss. Ole Miss, a Sweet 16 team last year and a sleeper favorite to make the Final Four this year. So that second game in the Bahamas is going to be the one to watch for the Arizona Wildcats, if it is indeed on Sunday against Mississippi. So we'll hear from the ladies who won last night. They went by that game for a little while. They were up early. Then San Diego creeped back in and took a lead. It was a little sluggish. They struggled in the middle portion of the game. They were down 1 at one point in the third quarter. But then Adia Barnes turned on the defense. They got 3 steals to ignite a 10, it was a 13-zip run.
Yeah.
They were down 40-39. They went up 52-40 and held on for the 13-point win.
It's tough when you're struggling from the outside like they did last night, right?
Yeah.
They really were struggling with that 3-point shot. As I remember, there was at one point where they were something like 1 for 8, 1 for 9, finished 2 for 13 on the game. But when your outside shot's not falling, it's a little bit more difficult to get that space, right? Because that opens everything up. So you can always count on Coach Barnes turning the defensive pressure up, especially when you got more than 5 bodies on the court. You're always going to see those ladies getting out there in the passing lanes and turning up the heat a little bit and shifting momentum. And when you have that style of ball, and especially when you can score in transition, It doesn't really, depending on the level of opponent we're talking about playing against here, you're never really out of it. You get down a couple points, you can see a quick 8-0, 6-0, 8-0 run before you blink.
How about another? We had Helena Puello, who had 7 steals in the game on Sunday against Loyola Marymount. How about another 5 steals in the game last night for Helena Puello? How about this line? I mean, she didn't score a whole bunch of points, but she definitely filled up the box score last night for the Arizona Wildcats. Helena Puello scored 2 points. 2 points. She made 1 shot. Now, and again, we'll get into that because that could potentially be problematic for this Arizona Wildcats club. Because, I mean, Adia Barnes said from the get-go, we need Helena Puello to take 15 shots per game. And I've always said that's asking a lot because that was me. Who Adia is this year was me 2 years ago in terms of Helena Puello. The first time I saw her play, I was like, this girl needs to be taking a ton more shots than she is. But it's just it has not been in her DNA through the 4 years that she's played here at Arizona to take a bunch of shots. That's why when Adia said that in the preseason, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, that's just not who Helena Puello has been. And last night, 2 shots, 2 points, but 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and 6 steals.
You know whose stat line that sounds like to me? That sounds like a Draymond Green stat line.
Right?
Just saying. Topical. Two field goal attempts. Obviously, it's tough. You talk DNA. I think most coaches either struggle telling players not to shoot so much because maybe they were the person in high school who had to shoot every single time. We've seen it time and time again. When you're coming from a lower level, you're oftentimes the only player capable. And so there's those, 30, 40, 50 field goal attempts a game. And then there's the opposite side of that coin is people who are just unselfish to a fault. And sometimes, and obviously, we talk about that quite a bit, Kyla Boswell last year with Coach Lloyd. If you don't take a shot that you get from within the offense that's an open look, it's a detriment to the team, right? I mean, open looks. I didn't have a chance to review all of the film. I'm not sure exactly if she passed up looks. DK, you'd be better one to talk about that better than I could. But you're right. I mean, especially if you're talking about a limited roster and one of your stars and your veteran leaders on that team, you want those people to be the ones that take charge.
Well, it's interesting you brought up Draymond Green because if I'm not mistaken, he has the only triple-double in NBA history that was not points.
It wouldn't surprise me.
4 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists, 10 steals. It came in 2017 against the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, that's what he does.
Yeah, so I would imagine because when I saw that after the game, when I was looking at her line, I was thinking to myself, I've never heard of a triple double because she obviously came close. I've never heard of a triple double that did not involve points. And she had 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and 6 steals. I mean, she's on the verge of a triple-double with only 2 points.
Look, there's a very fine line, but if you're passing up good looks, Ben Simmons is the perfect example of this. That's why he doesn't play in Philly anymore. You remember all of that? It was in the playoffs. He caught the ball 2 feet away from the basket, uncontested, felt the shot blocker coming, anticipated that, and Pat kicked out to a 3-point shooter on the wing. Passing up, DK, in essence, a layup. That you can't do that. You have to avoid situations where you're looking to do anything but shoot. You have to just play the game, let the game come to you within the offense. But if you get those looks and it's your number's been called because your teammates have taken the time to get the ball around and find an open look for you, you got to just let that fly.
All right, 520-848-1290. 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. We welcome in here the third member of our team today. Welcome back, Christy.
Hello, how are you?
Christy, how are you doing?
I'm good. I sound
Now you
horrible,
weren't here
but I'm
last.
good.
You weren't here last Wednesday, if I remember correctly.
No,
What happened? Where were you? We become like without Christy on Wednesday. We just don't know what to do here. I think the electricity shut off because it was like, wait, what's happening? It's not the right type of Wednesday.
Yeah, no, they've been scheduling me at the post office. So,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So this Wednesday, I was like, do not schedule me. I'm not coming in. I have other things, other more important things to do than deliver
All right.
mail today.
Well, I have a question for you, Christy. I'm going to test your memory here.
Oh, good heavens.
Do
Okay.
you know who George Glass is?
Yes.
Who is George Glass?
Brady Bunch. It's Jan Brady's imaginary boyfriend.
Right. You're awesome, Christy. My wife this morning my wife works in HR, and she was giving a presentation, and she worked George Glass into her presentation just as a generic person. Like she was just like, if you've got this employee, George Glass, and he needs and I'm in the kitchen like making my lunch, and I said to myself, did she just say George Glass in a meeting?
Did she know she did that?
She absolutely knew she did
That's
it.
my kind of girl.
She absolutely knew she did it. And so after her meeting was over, I said, did anybody laugh like when you said that? Like, did you see any reactions from anybody when you used that? Because that was the first thing when I reacted and I was in the kitchen.
I would have caught it, but a lot of these younger kids probably wouldn't.
Probably
so she
would
had a
not
lot
have.
of younger kids in there.
J-Dub, do you know who George Glass is?
George Glass. No.
No.
I'll say no.
No. See,
Well, there goes that theory.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't think J-Dub grew up on the Brady Bunch.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah,
is
no.
my-
I was going to say it sounds like a musician.
No,
But that would
George Glass, like Christy just said, was Jan's imaginary boyfriend. She was like, they were asking her if she had any boyfriends at
Sure,
school.
sure. I remember this. I remember
Yeah.
that storyline for sure. I just didn't remember the imaginary boyfriend.
And she came up with George, and I think Alice said, or her mom said, well, what's his last name? And there happened to be a glass on the table. And she said, George Glass.
Right.
George Glass.
I always felt so bad for her. Man, she always got the worst end of it.
She did, didn't she?
It's not easy being the middle daughter, is it?
Yeah, and that was the whole point of the show.
Right?
Yep.
Exactly. You're not a middle daughter, are you,
I
Christy?
am a baby and only girl.
A baby and only girl. All right, so you got all the attention, I would imagine, right?
It kind of.
Right.
I had two older brothers. I was a tomboy.
No, okay.
I was trying to be one of the boys. So my mom was always going, oh, be a lady, be a lady. God forbid if she ever put me in a dress. It was a nightmare.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, here she is back on Wednesdays. Everything is back to normal. The lights are on. Christy with your traffic and weather.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, this is Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together. We have a collision on I-10 westbound near Alvernon Way, milepost 265, causing quite a bit of slowing for I-10 westbound near Valencia to Palo Verde. We're also seeing some slowing from an earlier collision at Oracle and Grant involving a pedestrian. It is mostly cloudy and warm today. Tonight, a chance of isolated showers and cloudy with a low of 58. It is currently 86 degrees outside, and I'm Christy with Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together.
Feed it high right. It goes to Love. Cross court over to Lewis. Looking inside. Dump it off left corner. Bradley open for three. Got it!
DK on the Sports Tip on Wildcats Radio 1290.
520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. 520-848-1290. You can call us at that number. You can text us at that number. You can listen to the show on our website, wildcatsradio1290.com. That is our stream there. You can also find us on the iHeart app. So go on the iHeart app, look for Wildcats 1290. You can bring us up there. Also, Alexa has got us. So just ask Alexa for Wildcats 1290, and she will pop up our stream right there in your living room or your office. We are video streaming this show on a number of platforms. So you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook Live, or Twitch at Wildcats Radio 1290. You can also watch the show on Twitter at Wildcats 1290. Now, I want to review our question of the day from yesterday, and I'll give it to you right now, and we'll go over the results. This poll just closed, and it was, who will be the first Arizona Wildcats men's basketball player to score 20 points in a game this season? No Arizona Wildcat yet has scored 20 points in a game. Kylan Boswell has scored 18. You had a 17-point game by Keishad Johnson. So the final poll numbers look like this. It flip-flopped for a while, but in the end, 40% said Caleb Love will be the first Arizona Wildcat to score 20 points in a game. 31% for Keishad Johnson, 24% for Kylan Boswell, 5% for Umar Balo. So Caleb Love is the choice for the first Wildcat to score 20 points. Let's ask this guy if he thinks that would be the case. We are joined on the line by Ernie Kent, longtime college basketball coach in the Pac-12 with the Oregon Ducks and Washington State Cougars, as well as now an analyst with the Pac-12 Network. He was on the call on Monday night when the Wildcats knocked off Southern 97-59. Ernie, who do you think will be the first Wildcat to score 20 points in a game?
Well, first of all, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine, sir. Thank you.
That's great. I feel like it's going to be Keishad Johnson. And the reason I say that is because he scores off of offensive rebound putbacks. He scores off of a strong post-up game. He scores off the ability to put it on the floor anywhere around that free throw area and get to the hole. And then he scores off of running the floor so hard. So you could have some great guards that may get an outlet pass or a rebound. He sprints the floor. And as good as your guards are, the thing I really like about them is they give the ball up. They find people, more or less what I say, they see the play and they make the play. And it gives them a lot of scoring opportunities from getting fouled inside, rebound putbacks, post-up plays, drive plays, transition plays. That would be my guess on it.
It's interesting that you talk about Keishad Johnson, Ernie, and the fact that, I mean, we've seen, transfers, grad transfers, and that kind of thing. But how fortunate is a team to be able to pick up two transfers in Keishad Johnson and Caleb Love, who have played in a national championship game? You very rarely see that, and what you think that's going to be able to do for this program to have two guys like that.
Well, first of all, you're absolutely right. You very rarely see that because you would think with that kind of success they would come back to the same team. But in this day and age of the transfer portals, players wanting to better themselves, putting themselves in a better situation to get to that next level, NIL money, all those things factor into whatever decision players make to move on outside of possible coaching changes and things like that too. But to have two players that have been through the fire like that and have been successful like that in two really good programs, to be in an environment where they played in those pressure-packed games, particularly NCAA tournament games, that's invaluable to a team because they bring in what I would call a mentality, a very tough mentality in terms of knowing how to win, how to compete, how to grind. They bring in some leadership characteristics as well that you don't have to worry about them off the floor or coming to practice not ready to go and all those things. They already have that in them. So they're excellent pickups because of all those things I just mentioned, and it's very rare that you see that.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'll just kind of, we were talking to our volleyball coach here today on campus, and she was saying, the great thing about grad transfers and fifth year players is they come in and they want to go to work. It's not like they come in, they want to get their work done. That's what they're here to do, is to get their work done and then try to get to the next level. And I think that's so important, because it's a lot of times you have kids that, they're still trying to figure out who they are. When you're talking about your freshmen and your sophomores, these kids, they know who they are and where they want to go and what they need to do to get there.
And no question, that's why in the old days, before the portal and all this transferring took place, you could get a team, let's say, like Butler, that had junior seniors on their team beat a Kentucky, that had, let's say they had freshmen that came in that were Madonna All-Americans. Well, what's the difference? The junior and seniors have been through the fire. They know how to grind. They know how to handle themselves. They can run offense to the third and fourth option on it, because they know, they understand. Where the freshman or even a junior college player, freshman walking in the door, they don't understand how hard you need to compete night in, night out, day in, day out in practice, handle the classroom, handle the social aspects of it, handle being away from mom and dad. All of those things play into your development and how quickly you're able to become a stud at this level. Those guys that are coming in, grad transfers, and guys that are fifth-year seniors, or even guys that's in his senior year, they know how to do all that stuff already. They've already adjusted, adapted, and theirs is more about, like you say, put in the time to get to where they need to get to. They know what they need to do. They know how hard they need to work, and they're motivated and they're mentally tough enough to do the work.
Ernie Kent joining us, a analyst for the Pac-12 Network. JW, you've got a question for Ernie.
Yeah, Coach, having been around the game for so long as you have, with your coach's eye, I'm sure you reviewed that Duke film. You obviously were here on campus the other night to watch the Arizona Wildcats basketball team in person. We know about the defensive pressure they're going to bring on the outside. We know about their depth on the front court, and obviously with the multiple centers. What do you see, Coach, that you think that this team really needs to work on? We've heard nothing but positivities so far about the team, but what do you think is the biggest maybe weakness or something that the team should be working on moving forward?
Well, first of all, with the success they had against Duke, that is rare, because this early in the season, you don't see caliber programs like that going to another program's home floor, home environment with their crowd and going in there and beat them. They'll get them on a neutral court, but very rarely does that ever happen. So hats off to Arizona for having the confidence and courage to do that. And boom, it's elevated them already. What I see in this team is outstanding growth potential. Yes, they're talented in all those areas, front court, back court, depth and all that, but chemistry still has to come. Continuity still has to come. Really totally understanding Tommy's system still has to come with all the new guys. And then, again, being able to make sure they understand how hard you have to play night in, night out. And what I mean by that, you can get really spoiled playing down in McHale, because that crowd's there every night. That roar is there every night. Those fans have been understanding the game for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years of success. They know when to cheer and all those things. And then you go out on the road, and let's say you're in an environment that doesn't have all that energy in it. I feel like that affected them a little bit last year. You got to be able to dial up that energy at any time, regardless of if you're at home and or on the road. That's what I liked about the Duke game. They had tremendous energy in the arena, but it still took Arizona some focus and some mentality to step their game up. If they can continue to do that, when it's not Duke sitting over there, when it's a Washington State and Oregon State, when it's a lesser opponent over there, and they can still raise it up, then I think they have an opportunity to really grow and get so much better. Similar to the second half of the Southern. There's no way Southern actually played harder, in my opinion, than Duke did, because they were more of a scrappy team. Duke had talent, size. Not saying Duke wasn't good and didn't play hard, but Southern really got after them in the first half, even though they weren't the same competitive competition on the floor as Duke. Arizona shouldn't let that happen. That's in a game where you need to get on them, jump on them right away, send a message right away, get your bench, get your depth, continue to grow your program by playing numbers in a game like that where everybody gets an opportunity to play and get more confident.
Ernie, obviously this was your first time seeing Arizona in person, but do you see any weaknesses that you think teams might be able to exploit?
Probably early on, I wanted to see how well they shot the ball. That's normally the key because you can run into teams that are equally as talented and maybe a little bit more athletic across the front back line or something like that, and all of a sudden they throw a zone on you. Like you notice Southern played that 1-3-1 zone, and it was a half-court extended trapping zone that caused them a little problems at first. And that's the type of zone where you got to throw over the top to the corner. You got to have those deep range corner shooters ready to light that zone up because that's where the shots are. So that was the only thing I was looking at. Is this a team that can really knock down threes when teams kind of zone them, sit on top of the bigs inside, take away your driving lanes, and make you shoot it? And if they can do that, there is no weakness because, again, they've got excellent guard play. So much better, in my opinion, than last year because they're tougher, they're more focused, they're grittier, they play harder, they play together, all of those things are there. Your big line guys are just, nobody has that where you can continue to bring in that kind of size onto the floor and everything. So in time, they just need to continue to develop their ability to really knock down perimeter shooting when it's given to them.
We're joined by Ernie Kent, Pac-12 basketball analyst, called the game Monday night with his son Jordan, who we've had on the show a couple of times during the football, and then when we talked to him before the season opener against Morgan State. How many times now is this, Ernie, that you and your son have called a basketball game together?
We've probably, over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, have been in probably a dozen games together, and it's, I told the network, they call it retirement. I try to keep myself busy. And they said, would you do that? I said, I would love to do it as long as you can put me with as many games as possible with my son, because there's no other father-son combination in the country that does this, that's at courtside doing games. He is a pro. Just a pro. I'm nowhere near where he is, where he can jump from football to basketball to track. He does work for Nintendo and MCs their events. He's all over the place because he's so good. And he has he's in demand by a lot of different networks and people like that wanting him to do things. It's just a joy for me to be able to sit there and talk the game, and him having the ability to shoot the right questions to you about the game that allows you to do what you do and play to my strengths. He does that because he understands what he's doing. He's just outstanding.
So how did you guys, he calls you EK. So how did you guys come up with how he was going to address you?
It's kind of funny on that because, early on in a couple of games, I called him OK Didi, because that's what my son and daughter used to call him. They didn't call him Jordan, they called him Didi when he was little, stuff like that. So, and we call him JK, he calls me EK, calls me Pops, calls me Dad. It's what we decided to do was be not just call a game, but entertain as well, and particularly in the game that you just had where there was a blowout. The hardest part of announcing is when there's a blowout, to keep people interested that are watching the game, and that's where you got to have your stories ready to go. And he was great at leading me into the legacy agreement that we had with the SWAC, leading him into Lute Olson, my relationship with Lute, where we had those heated battles and later became really good friends. And he was great at letting you tell those stories because he knows those stories and he's heard those stories. So we addressed each other in a way that if you are a viewer looking at it, we wanted people to see a unique but good father-son relationship, and then help some dads out there and sons that have those relationships at home in terms of the things we could get into and talk about, how we handle things. Remember, I coached him as well, too, and he had all those things we had to go through. It helped me as a coach become a better coach and even a better dad coaching him, because I had to become a dad to everybody in the locker room, and some of those guys didn't have dads, and they got eyeballs on your relationship with your son, and they're wanting to know, well, wait a minute, I want to feel that, too. And it allowed me to open up and be a dad to a lot of other guys as well, too.
Yeah, that was a great story you told about Coach Olson, and just how it evolved into a friendship that the two of you had together. What was most special about your time being around Coach?
I think the biggest thing when I came in, I remember my press conference at Oregon when I came from St. Mary's, and we had some tremendous success coming out of there. And one of the questions in the media room was, this is no longer the West Coast Conference. How are you going to handle the Pac-10 at the time? And my comment was, you had to coach every single night in the West Coast Conference because no one had any distinct advantages over anybody else, so you had to really coach. And the thing about the Pac-10 at the time that I look forward to, you had two really elite coaches in this conference, in Luke and Mike Montgomery. I worked for Mike as an assistant at Stanford, coming from Colorado State to Stanford. So I knew Mike, how he coached, knew his system, learned a lot of things from him. I then wanted to be up close with Luke and coach against him just to see how did he get Arizona to that program. So really, Arizona and Stanford were the benchmarks for us at Oregon when we got in. We don't worry about anybody else. We want to get those two programs. How do we beat those two programs in recruiting, organization, energy, effort, coaching, everything? And that's why when the day we got there, when we were able to win the Pac-10 championship, go to the tournament, win the Pac-10 tournament championship, we caught those teams. But we would have never caught them without having the eyeballs on them and those guys being so dominant when you came into the conference.
You know, it's interesting. You not only did you mention Coach Lute Olson, but I was a basketball manager at USC, and you threw in a George Raveling reference into the broadcast as well, who I had a chance to work for during my years there. I just loved how you touched on the history of great coaches in the Pac-12 conference the other night.
I think that, again, is the blessing of having a former – you got to understand something. I was in the conference and played in it when it was the Pac-8.
Oh,
and
wow.
Wooden was the coach of UCLA, playing against Walton and Wilkes and Marcus Johnson, Richard Washington, Gus Williams at
Wow.
SC, James Edward at Washington. Washington State had Padakis and Stuart House and all those guys. George was there. Ralph Miller was over there at Oregon State. It was just so much talent in this conference as a player, and then you evolved. You went from the Pac-8 to coaching in it in the Pac-10, to announcing in it when it was the Pac-12, and then coaching in it when it was the Pac-12 as well. That's a lot of history for a conference. I think that's one of the beauties of being able to work for the network. You do have the history of the conference and the coaching and all the stories that have taken place in this conference with so many great coaches that have come through and everything. And again, it's a joy to be able to talk about those things and educate people on here's what it was like, here's how it evolved, here we have got to this point. And while it's such a precious conference, unfortunately, there's going to be some history that's going to be lost in the transition and everything.
Yeah, Ernie, after all you just said, I would imagine you've got to be crushed by what's taking place.
I am. It's sad because you are talking about, in my opinion, the greatest conference in the history of sports. And all you have to do is look at the championships, the domination that has taken place in the Olympic sports and all of those things. It's just so impressive. And I didn't really understand that until I was working at Stanford. And Tara Vanderveer and her Washington and her women's program, the baseball program, the tennis program, gymnastics. I mean, everybody was an elite coach in an elite program. And the domination that has taken place in the conference throughout the history, no conference will match what took place here in terms of the NCAA championships across the board in all those sports.
Now, do you live in Arizona now? Do you live in the Valley as well?
I live in Scottsdale.
Okay.
Jordan came down. He lives in Gilroy Chandler area. I'm in Scottsdale. I've always, when I brought my teams down here from rainy Eugene in the middle of January or from snowy Pullman in the middle of February, you feel like you can get on a plane and fly 2.5 hours away and feel like you're in a foreign country. When you step off the plane, there are these palm trees and orange trees. And believe it or not, both Arizona and Arizona State recruited me out of high school. And I did take a visit out here when Ned Walk was out here at the coach. I'll never forget, even then, I'm sitting in his yard, and he said, go pick an orange off that tree at breakfast time. And I've always said, if I ever retire, I'm moving to Scottsdale. I just think it's this is one of the more unique states ever where you could get a cooler temperature up in Flagstaff. You got all the nature here you want to see. There's so much to do in the state. There's so much energy here. It's been great living here so far.
Well, if that's the case, we look forward to seeing you here in McHale Center again later this season calling Arizona basketball. Ernie, appreciate the time. We look forward to it. We'd love to have you on again as the season progresses.
Anytime. Just give me a holler. I'd love to do it.
All right. Ernie Kent, longtime basketball coach here in the Pac-12, player in the Pac-12 conference, Pac-8 conference, as we found out there, and coach at Oregon and Washington State, and now an analyst with the Pac-12 network. Just outstanding to have him on the show and talk about the conference and his son, and getting a chance to call games with his son, Jordan, here in Tucson for the first time. last Monday.
I wish we had another 20 minutes because, I mean, honestly,
Exactly.
there's so many questions. He talked about the guard played Arizona. The guard played Oregon when he was up there. I mean, that's what they were known for at the time. I always loved his coaching style. I always loved his demeanor. Still do, not past tense. I love his coaching style and demeanor. And it's just amazing to get the wealth of information. You talk about all those great coaches that were a part of the pack at the time. I mean, Raveling is maybe the forgotten one, DK, because George Raveling was a heck of a coach as well. But all of those great coaches then came through. He was a great coach as well. Ernie Kent was a very, very good college basketball coach. And it's great to see him and his son getting this, second life and going through it like this together. I look forward to hearing many, many broadcasts with the two of them together moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like, obviously, with both of them here, that we may have them on some more games this season. All right, we are long past getting you home. We went from the 1-5 to the next 5, but as long as it's close to a 5, we can get you home with your traffic and your weather. Here is Christy.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, this is Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together. We had that collision on I-10 westbound near Alvernon Way at milepost 265, still causing quite a bit of slowing for westbound I-10. We also have a collision at eastbound Tetairoa Farms Road, just east of Old Father. Mostly cloudy and warm tonight with a chance of isolated showers and cloudy with a low of 58. It is currently 86 degrees at the station, and I'm Christy with Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together.
This report is sponsored by Big O Tires. Come to Big O Tires for the big Black Friday sale now through December 3rd and get up to 140 instant savings off select in-stock Michelin.
Sports Tip on Wildcats Radio 1290.
520-848-1290, 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. JW, we're chatting with Ernie Kent at the beginning of our conversation when I did the poll from yesterday, the question of the day. So I want to get your thoughts. The finality of it flip-flopped several times.
Yeah.
But in the end, you and Ernie voted for Keyshawn Johnson. I voted for Keyshawn Johnson to be the first Wildcat to score 20 points in a game. But in the end, it was Caleb Love, 40% to 31% for Keyshawn Johnson being the Wildcat that most people think is going to hit that 20-point plateau first this season. Kylan Boswell at 24 and Umar at just 5.
I think if the question was who's the best scorer, the answer is Caleb Love, and that's what the poll results show, right? I mean, Caleb Love is unquestionably the best scorer on the team. I mean, he can do it from all. And coming in with a reputation of maybe taking ill-advised shots, maybe playing a little bit too much hero ball when he was at North Carolina, I think he's making a concerted effort to really try to find his teammates, really try not to call his own number, at least early in the season. There's going to be times this season where Caleb Love's going to be needed to step up. If we've talked about this already during some of the pre-games, there will be times when the offense maybe bogs down, the passing lanes close up a little bit, some of those tougher defensive teams. And a guy like that who can do it on his own will be necessary. But what I said when the poll came out is all four of those guys are likely to be the first person. You know what I mean? Because there's different scenarios. I like coaches' thoughts, which Keyshawn can score from everywhere. That's what we said. I mean, he's the kind of guy you don't need to call his number, that glue guy, if you want to call it that, where offensive rebound putbacks, cutting. He's going to be, find himself open when other guys pull defensive attention to themselves. So Keyshawn Johnson very easily could be that. Obviously, Kylan Boswell is going to have the ball in his hands a lot. Caleb Love, great scorer. Umar Ballo is their post threat. So if they have a game where they're going to establish the post, David Kelly. If people aren't paying attention, this is what Coach Lloyd does. Coach Lloyd goes inside out. So there may be a lot of guards on this team that people are talking about right now, as they should. But the offense will always be centered around establishing either post play or guards getting their feet in the paint off of drives. That's a big part of this offense is establishing presence in the paint. So any of those four guys could be the first to score 20. The question I have, DK, is when does that happen? I mean, right now it doesn't look like anybody's trying to take a bunch of shots. Keyshawn, I think, has been the high field goal attempt guy so far this season, if my memory serves. I mean, he had some higher numbers of field goal attempts so far, but doesn't seem like anybody's out there looking to score. They're just looking to win games. They're just looking to pass the ball around. What they're doing right now is trying to feel each other out. Summer trip to Dubai or not, they still only have 3 returning players from last year. So it's going to take some in-game time for everybody to understand each other's tendencies, where guys like the ball, and just the rhythm of how that works. And so right now we're just seeing a lot of feeling each other out. And I just imagine this offense is going to get more and more tuned up as the season goes on.
Chris Hughes checks in on Facebook. He says Keyshawn Johnson. Eric Freeze is one of that 5%. He checks in and says Umar Ballo. We appreciate you all for taking part in our question of the day from Tuesday. And we will let you know coming up here later in the show what our question of the day for today is going to be. Real quick, JW, we were talking at the beginning of the hour about the Wildcat football team and the potential that they can still get to the Pac-12 championship game.
What you had said was, can you believe that there's a scenario? And a caller called in and said, there's no scenario. What are you talking about? There's no way Arizona makes it. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek because we remember how last season went. We remember 2 seasons ago, remember 3 seasons ago, and how this season started. And they were 2-1, going up against a situation where they're going to play 8 consecutive top 25 ranked teams. Remember that?
Yeah.
So here they find themselves 7-3. The caller was wondering what that scenario might be. Well, here it is. There is a scenario for Arizona football to make the conference title game, and it's this. They have to win out, obviously. USC has to lose a game. And the big one is Washington has to lose out. So Washington has to lose the remainder of their games. USC has to lose one more game, and Arizona has to win out. And then the Arizona Wildcats will find themselves in the Pac-12 football championship game. So Washington must lose the remainder of their games.
Yeah.
And that scenario is not going to happen. So again, there is a scenario. It's just,
but at least there is one.
It's out there. It's possible. It's a possibility.
You never know what can happen in college football. You never know what can happen. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. All right, coming up in the next hour, for the first time this season, the big three are going to be on the floor for your Phoenix Suns.
Woohoo.
Bradley Beal, Devin Booker are probable on the injury report that we just received a little while ago, which means that they will be on the floor tonight with their guy Kevin Durant. And for the first time, the new big three for the Phoenix Suns will play in an NBA basketball game together. The Suns at 7:00 host the Minnesota Timberwolves in it's going to be the second game of a back-to-back as Minnesota went. They were 7-2. They went and got beat up last night, and literally because I think they had a fight in that game. And Draymond he had Rudy Gobert by the neck.
He did.
I mean, what was that all about?
Well, we don't have time to talk about it right now, but we can get into it if you want.
My goodness, yeah, we'll get into that as well. So the Suns are going to play the Timberwolves at 7:00. You'll hear from Devin Booker in the next hour. It's DK on the Sports Tip. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, this is Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together. We're still seeing quite a bit of slowing for westbound I-10 near Alvernon Way. Also I-10 westbound near Valencia due to a pedestrian in the roadway. Earlier collision in the clearing stages, Cotero Farms Road, just east of Old Father. And quite a bit of slowing for southbound Kolb Road near 34th Street due to a car fire. It is currently 86 degrees out. Tonight's overnight low, 58. I'm Christy with Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together.
This report is sponsored by
DK on the Sports Tip with your host, David Kelly.
Radio. Just when I thought I was out, they drug me back in.
Featuring J.W. Madden.
Don't tell me about flip-flops, man. I'm a native.
And Cricket getting you home with traffic and weather.
Camp on Melt Lemon, not in the left lane on the freeway.
Here we go! And now, a man who has not one, but 3 first names, David Scott Kelly.
Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant on the floor together tonight here in the desert for the first time. It has only taken us, 10 games? 10 games into this 2023-24 National Basketball Association season to get to the moment where the Phoenix Suns' new Big Three will play their first game together. And that will happen tonight at the Footprint Center with tip-off coming up at 7 o'clock. Devin Booker, Bradley Beal have been dealing with injuries during this early part of the season. Kevin Durant essentially has been carrying the squad through the first 10 ball games.
That's what he does usually.
Yeah, he's averaging 30 points, 5 assists, 7 rebounds. I mean, just doing it all.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the problem is they kind of mortgage the future for the present by making all these trades. And so a lot of their pieces have gone by the wayside. So now they really have to rely on those 3 guys. And when they're not all in the lineup, it's tough, right? It's tough to get enough points. 4 and 6 to start out the season in the first 10. They've been in a lot of those games. Kevin Durant is still Kevin Durant, and nothing's changed. However, on paper, the difficulty matching up against the Suns roster is Kevin Durant and Devin Booker is a really crazy 1-2 punch. 2 of the top 3-5 scorers in the entire NBA. You add into that Bradley Beal, who's, again, another one of he's probably the 11th best scorer in the NBA or something like that. It's crazy. He's the best third option by far any team can put out there. We haven't gotten a chance to see it, but if they do develop a little bit of time together on the court, because veterans are not, it does take time to play with each other. I just see this team with those 3 guys healthy and on the court. Hopefully it won't be another New Jersey Nets scenario that Kevin Durant had to deal with because, again, those 3 guys only played together, I think, 14, 17 games total in 2 years, a year and a half. Hopefully they can get out there and get enough time together moving forward because it's a tough league right now. And the team they're playing tonight, DK, is much improved. The experiment of bringing over Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz a couple years ago now, it really was frowned upon by their fan base up there in Minnesota, and a lot of people just didn't understand. How do you make Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert on the court work together? They're different styles of players, but physically they move about the same. You know what I mean? And the pace of today's NBA is so fast. The era of, quote, Twin Towers, remember Houston so long ago with Elijah and Ralph Sampson, that whole thing that started that all. There is no real place in today's game. Few teams even have centers of that level. It's a lot of 4 or 5 out sets. But alongside those 2, they do have Anthony Edwards, and Anthony Edwards is really coming into his own. Most impressively, though, they're currently ranked as the top defensive rated team in the NBA. Early season, 10 games. T-Wolves, Celtics, Knicks is the top 3 defensive teams right now.
You mentioned yesterday we were talking about the first battle between Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren last night, which the Thunder just absolutely dominated the Spurs in that game. Neither player put up impressive numbers in that ball game, but now you've got me looking at this whole 50-50-90 thing,
right?
With every player now. So Kevin Durant this season, in what he's done in leading this team and averaging 33 points per ball game, and gosh darn it, I just lost it right there. Hold on, let me go back to the top here. Is shooting 50% from the field, 42% from 3, and 85% from the line. So he's very close.
And he's
to that 50-50-90. And he's averaging 30 points per game this season.
Yeah, he's done it twice in his career. He's had a full season. It's a lot like the 400 thing in baseball. Like you really don't.
It's not, it's like that. like that 400 is a big deal. So
No,
this
what I mean to say is it's like that where you don't talk about it until you're 148 games into the season. Like, there's no point talking about a 400 batting average 10 games into a Major League Baseball season.
Exactly.
These numbers for Chet and those guys are going to come down. Really, what I was illustrating, there's only 9 players in the history of the game that have ever had a full season with that stat line. We talked about that yesterday. Yeah. Chet's not going to have that stat line to end the season. For a rookie, and especially a rookie who's, 7'3", something to that effect, shooting 50% from the three-point line as he was going into last night's game. I did watch that whole game. Obviously, the third and fourth quarters. I will say 2 things. Number one, Oklahoma City is just a vastly, vastly superior team to the Spurs, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But chief among them is they have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and he was number 5 in MVP voting last year. Might be, this is a strong statement, but he might be the best scorer in the NBA. I mean, if you watch him play, he's like Allen Iverson with the herky-jerky stuff, and nobody can figure him out. But he's got a little bit more length. He's just an incredibly talented player, 25 years old. They also have the 2 Jason Williams that they drafted last year. One's J-Dub and the other one's J-Will.
I think it's Jalen Williams. I think it's Jalen Williams.
Yeah, they have the same name, so but they're spelled differently.
Right.
Anyway, the 2 of them, one of them finished second in Rookie of the Year voting last year. They have a very solid, and they got Josh Giddey too, and he's a very, very impressive young player. He's only 21 out of Australia, kind of like a 6'10" point guard, if you will. They have a really solid team and a competitive team. That game last night, neither of those guys, Wembanyama and Chet, neither of them scored over 10 points. Wemby, I think, was something like 4 for 17, something to that effect. Let's see. He did not shoot well on the game. He shot 5 for 12.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. 4 for 15 is what he shot. So it was a struggle for those 2 guys to get anything going. But, yeah, Oklahoma City Thunder, as you saw from the final score, 123-87, they have a team over there. They're one of those teams that's on the verge of making some noise. I don't know if they'll be able to make any kind of playoff run this year because they're so young, but they've got a ton of talent, and they've got a really balanced team. And adding Chet Holmgren off of that, missing his rookie year last year, it's a scary squad over there for sure.
I think you may have given me a question of the day for tomorrow.
Let's do it.
J-Dub. Yeah. All right. So Victor Wembanyama last night, 8 points, 14 rebounds. Chet 9 points, 7 rebounds in a huge win. That game was, like you mentioned, out of hand by the end of the third quarter in favor of the Orlando Magic. How about Adama Ball?
Yeah.
For the Santa Clara Broncos.
Yeah.
They upset Stanford last night, and Adama scored 23 points, and he is off to one heck of a start. And it's interesting because I think in the NIL era, we're going to start to see this more. I mean, we've seen a lot of guys transfer out of Arizona, but not really go on to do much elsewhere.
Yeah.
But I think now in the NIL era, you may begin to see more players who can now go to another program and find that success that maybe they weren't getting here at the University of Arizona.
Look what happened to Adia last year, right? I mean, if you have a lot of players on your roster, what comes with that is expectation for minutes. And if you have a certain rotation that you're happy going with, some of those people who aren't getting playing time, they're going to start looking elsewhere. Kelvin Efon's talked about this quite a bit when he spent his 2 years here on the Arizona men's basketball team before moving over to the football side of things. The issue there is I always loved Adama Ball's game. I mean, I think everybody did. He was very young coming in. He was a year younger than his grade when he first got here. And I think what ended up happening is it's not about being recruited over as much as portaled over. Okay, so last year, Cedric Henderson Jr., Courtney Ramey came in late in that process. Those are the 2 guys who ended up getting a ton of the minutes in the rotation last year. Last year would have been Adama Ball's year to slide into that rotation, maybe the 7th, 8th guy. If you remember, fans and DK, he got time. He got quite a bit of time in the first 8-10 games of that year, last year. And when he got in, he was a little unsure, maybe didn't make some sharp decision-making, a couple of bad turnovers, that kind of thing. People remember in the Pac-12 tournament 2 years ago, he made huge shots down the stretch of those games when there was some foul trouble.
Yeah.
He's capable. Always have been capable. I think what ended up happening last year is Coach Lloyd put him in wanted to obviously get Adama Ball into the rotation last year as a part of last year's team. It didn't work out early in the season, and those other guys just took those minutes back away, and he just never found his way back into the rotation. So obviously, as always, there's been a lot of players who've transferred out, and wish them all nothing but the best. It's not about bad blood as far as I know. It's just a matter of, players want to play. Players want to get out there and show what they can do. And, I think it's a great landing spot for him. Santa Clara's had some moments, right? They've had a few solid teams over the years. And getting on the court, he played the most minutes last night of anybody
36.
on that team. Yeah, 36 minutes. So you talk about how many minutes did he play in his total career at Arizona? So he's got to be eclipsing that pretty soon, just in a couple of games with Santa Clara.
Yeah, he scored 17 points in their opener against Utah Tech. Didn't have as good a game against St. Francis, just 3, but 23 points last night. And you mentioned 36 minutes in an upset on the road at Maples Pavilion over the Stanford Cardinals.
I love his stroke. I really, really have always had a very smooth jump shot. He can get to spots, so he can get past the first line of defense, get to that spot, rise into his jump shot. He's got good athleticism and really good length. The issue was always the quick decision making. And at this level, if you're out there overthinking or trying to figure out, am I going to make a mistake here or not, and trying to, think about your reaction to what the defense is, there's no time for any of that stuff. And my observations watching Adama Ball in the rotation last year was just that he wasn't quite quick enough with his decision making, and he didn't really get a second chance. And the reason for that, I just said, there's other guys last year that could in those spots. And when you're talking about the Maui trip and other trips where, especially when it's all games are important. But if you're from a coach's perspective, you want to get the guys in to give them a chance, because game time equals experience equals improvement and all of those things. Unfortunately, if you give a guy a number of chances and it just doesn't work out, there's other guys who you'll give chances to. If they work out, then it's hard to find yourself back into that rotation.
Well, and you mentioned, what had happened to Adia and the women's basketball team last year. Heck, you could go back to 2 years when she lost Arinette Vonleh to Colorado, who in 3 games this year is scoring at an 18-point per game clip and helped the Buffaloes knock off the number 1 team in the country in Louisiana State. I mean, Arizona women's basketball would absolutely love to have Arinette Vonleh in their post on this year's team, shooting 74% from the floor. Can you imagine her and Brea Cunningham together right now? Oh my gosh, this would be a team, maybe not necessarily, and you could still play your freshmen, but you'd still probably be a team that might be in the top 5 of the Pac-12 if you had to another big to go along with Brea Cunningham.
I mentioned Ruben Douglas because I have a personal anecdote. I spent a lot of time at the rec center. Kelvin and all those guys in that era from 94, 95 until like the early 2000s. I was at the rec center all the time. Ruben Douglas came in, DK, and he was a freshman, really, really solid guard. Really, really liked his style, and he was coming. Okay, it was about to be his sophomore year, I believe. He was coming into his sophomore year, and he was about to be. I don't know if he was ready to be poised to be the starter, but I think at the time they had Jason Gardner on the team. Obviously, at the time, I think he was maybe going to be the first guard off the bench. Okay, Late in the process, Coach Olson signed an unknown guy out of LA by the name of Gilbert Arenas. And he came in over the summer, and Gil was cooking people, and Ruben Douglas transferred because, and again, I wasn't in those conversations. I just saw them all at the rec all that summer long. Ruben Douglas left and went to New Mexico, led the nation in scoring.
Yeah.
Led the nation in scoring after leaving because Gilbert Arenas came in, and it was quite evident that he was going to be challenged, if not surpassed, for that. And again, I wasn't part of any of those personal conversations. Maybe Ruben Douglas left for a completely different, unrelated reason. That's just the way that a lot of people remember it. But just because a guy isn't getting time, or maybe there's some other player ahead of them, or women, you're talking about Adia's squad, it doesn't mean that they're not capable. Maybe it's not the right setting. Maybe it's not the right situation. And I personally believe NIL opens up the door for a lot of people to be able to find the right home. Find the right home for their own personal development. Obviously, the goal to help the team as much as possible, but not every landing spot fits at the time. And maybe it's just not the right fit at the time. And I always wish people the best. Adama Ball, Ruben Douglas, et al. Anybody who's going to leave the Wildcats basketball program and move on. I just wish them nothing but the best.
520-848-1290. 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. What did you think of what J-Dub just said there? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, is he the best scorer in the NBA? What do you think about that? We'd love to hear from you on it. Always, though, getting you home every 20 minutes on the fives with your traffic and your weather. Every Wednesday with us here is Christy.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, this is Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together. We're still seeing quite a bit of slowing on I-10 westbound from Valencia to Palo Verde. Eastbound I-10 slowing from 6th Avenue to Keno Parkway, and also some slowing for I-10 westbound as you approach Ina Road. And we have a new collision up for westbound Broadway just west of Alvernon Way, and a couple speed enforcement zones in the area of Oracle and River, also 5th and Stone. Tonight's overnight low 58 with a chance of isolated showers. It is currently 86 degrees outside, and I'm Christy with Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Get great deals all month long when you shop Black Friday every day at Lowe's. Get 25% off all artificial Christmas trees and tree decor. Valid through 11/15. Tree decor includes ornaments, toppers, collars, and skirts. While supplies last, selection varies by location.
Wildcat fans, don't miss your last chance to catch your Arizona football team in action as they take on the Utah Utes Saturday, November 18th. We will be honoring our military personnel on Military Appreciation Day. It's also your last opportunity to watch your Wildcat seniors play in Arizona Stadium. Join us for all the excitement by calling the ticket office today at 520-621-CATS or by visiting ArizonaWildcats.com/FB. Bear down, Tucson.
Sean Furrier for Jack Furrier Tire and Auto Care. It looks like our long, hot summer is finally over, and cooler temperatures are great news for us and mostly good news for your car. But for some of you, the cooler overnight temperatures will be just enough to trigger your tire's low-pressure warning light. In most cases, you can solve the problem simply by adding the correct amount of air to your tires, and then get back to enjoying the cooler temperatures. As always, you can stop by any of our 14 area Jack Furrier Tire and Auto Care locations for a free tire inspection and air pressure check. And if you need help with that low-pressure warning light, we fix those too. This month, mention this ad, and with the purchase of any new tire pressure sensor, we'll install it in your wheel and rebalance your tire absolutely free. You'll find even more specials to get you road trip ready at jackfurriers.com. So call ahead, make an appointment online, or just drive up. Jack Furrier Tire and Auto Care. Since 1960, we're here to get you there.
Experiencing the natural wonders comes easy at Rock & Kay. Nestled at the base of the Rincon Mountain foothills. Enjoy stunning mountain views up close every day. Hit the community trails, explore local parks like Saguaro National and Colossal Cave, and mingle at private Diamond Community Park events. In the top-rated Vail School District, Rock & Kay is close to work, shopping, and services. Tour 11 different model homes by top-tier builders, offering move-in-ready homes and special incentives. Live RockandK.com. Designed by Nature, proud U of A radio broadcast sponsor.
Hey guys, I have a riddle. I hate it already. I'm wearing a polar bear disguise to provide service with no compromise. You're on Alaska vacation. Wait, I'm not done. It's a vital.
on Wildcats Radio 1290.
520-848-1290. 520-848-1290. You can call us at that number. You can text us at that number if you want to get in on the show. Talk Arizona Wildcats football, basketball, women's basketball, volleyball. We had a chance to catch up with the seniors today, at least two of the seniors that are wrapping up their careers, or maybe wrapping up their careers, because, of course, with this class still being in the COVID cycle, they've got the opportunity to come back next season for a fifth year. And among those is Sofia Maldonado Diaz, the best player on this team, and Joy Gallus, who is one of the defensive specialists on this team. We had Joy on the show last month, had a chance to talk to her. They both have the option to come back next season if they so choose. And we mentioned earlier in the week that Arizona Volleyball has the best player in the country, the number one recruit in the country, in Carly Cisneros, coming in next season. So we will hear from Sofia and Joy about that. I asked them specifically, how does that weigh into your thinking when you've got the number one player in the country coming here? Do you maybe want to stick around? Because it could be a quick turnaround. I mean, it's not been a good year. We cannot sugarcoat that this has not been a good year. This has not been a good year for Arizona Volleyball. But when you've got the number one player in the country coming in, you can turn it around pretty quickly.
Can't be a negative, right? I mean, is she a setter?
She is an outside hitter, no. But they do have a setter in the class, which is the number 7 class. It was ranked the number 7 recruiting class in the country. So they do have a setter in that class. But, yeah, we talked about that last week. You know, you can have all the hitters you want. If you don't have a setter that can get the ball to them in the right position, then it probably isn't going to matter how good Carly Cisneros is when she gets here next year. All right. We do want to hear from Devin Booker, though, because Devin Booker is back today along with Bradley Beal, and they will play for the first time with their third man, Kevin Durant. The big three for the Phoenix Suns will be on the court tonight at the Footprint Center when the Suns take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. After a shoot-around, Devin Booker sat down with the media to discuss his return to the lineup.
You know, high energy and fun, and you know, you've seen potential there, so, you know, finally get to test that against a real opponent in the regular season. A really good team, too, that's playing, you know, probably the best basketball in a long time right now, so I'm excited for the matchup.
When you were working your way back from the cap, what was maybe the limit part or what thing you had to get over specifically in order to get to this point of playing?
I think just scrimmaging. You know, that's what I didn't do after, you know, the ankle and, you know, getting some good bump in. So, you know, we had a couple days in between last game and this game. And, you know, shout out to the guys that aren't getting as many minutes right now that, you know, we got a good chance to get up and down.
You've gone through this process of checking the boxes before. I know 3 different injuries to start the season. How difficult is it to kind of stay patient through that kind of process?
It's frustrating.
It's been the hardest part, though. Just kind of dealing with all these different things.
Just not playing.
What's the mesh been like in the preseason when all 3 of you guys are out on the floor? Bradley and Kevin.
Seems so long ago, I don't remember. So, you know, that is, even we were staggering minutes and only playing a quarter or 2 then, but, you know, like I said, you've seen the potential there, and, you know, we had a great training camp together, and now, you know, it's time to put it to test.
Results the past 2 games for the team, is there some immediacy to get back?
So what?
With the results the past 2 games for the team, did you feel some immediacy to get back?
No. You know, I took my time with this one. You know, I was coming back if we were on a win streak or not, or a losing streak right now. So, you know, it's a long season. We're not going to overreact. Still a lot of basketball to be played, and, you know, we're at full strength now.
Seeing your share of junk defenses without you out there, Kevin, they've been overloading against him quite a bit. What have you been seeing in terms of what they've thrown and how you can kind of help alleviate some of that?
Just in so many ways. You know, I guess we'll just have to see. But Minnesota's a defense, they play pretty much straight up, so they don't throw too many junk defenses. Obviously keeping Rudy at the rim and, you know, Carl as a perimeter defender is something different. But, you know, we just have to get out there, like I said, and, you know, test the waters.
looking at Bradley, he's obviously gutting it out through the back, and just maybe what you're seeing with him even through that, how he's played so far.
Oh, good. Still trying to get his flow, and that's expected. You know, me personally, have been fortunate enough I haven't had to really deal with back pain, but you know, I've heard from many people it's not an easy task, but you know, it's an everyday grind. It's part of the season, and all you can do is keep working, and hopefully he doesn't feel it anymore.
You mentioned patience, and it's just 10 games in. How much do you have to, or guys have to, tell themselves that, you know what, it's just 10 games. We're not 50 games in the season. We're not 60 games into the season. It's just 10 games.
You know, I think it's more the fans than anything, you have to tell. The guys understand that. We've all been in many situations, and there's been a lot of experience here, and you know, we understand what we're going for, what we're shooting for, and we also understand the importance of regular season. It's not something that you can just pass along, and seeding for the postseason and, you know, working off the kinks during the regular season is a big part of that. And, you know, you have to be able to do that while you play together. But, you know, we're going for the long haul, and we want everybody to be healthy though.
What seems among the bottom tier for fast break points? Do you make a point of emphasis of getting out and running to get the more up at the top?
Yeah.
The calf injury, was it a specific play in the game, or was it something that started bothering you kind of the next day after?
I think over time, I was supposed to be on some type of minute restriction that game, but, you know, the game didn't go as planned, and, you know, it was high energy, and we're working an uphill battle the whole second half, and, you know, I stayed in most of that time, you know, off and not scrimmaging.
Think you'll be on the minute restriction tonight?
I think so, but I don't know what that is. So, you know, I talk to the training staff. I trust them. I'll talk to Coach. He's done things like this in the past, so, you know, I'm going to work my way into it.
What stood out to you the most about the way this team played and battled by the time you were out?
You said what?
What stood out to you the most about the way this team still battled?
Just keep fighting. You know, the morale of the team doesn't get too high and it doesn't get too low after wins or losses, and, you know, that says a lot about a team. You know, you just want to stay steady, you know, still learning your wins and, you know, still learning your losses.
What did you make of the headlock? What did you make of the headlock last night?
It's crazy. 0-0-0. You know, that's why I actually like the baseball style games though. Like, you know, it brings something to the game when you just seen the team 2 days ago.
What are your first impressions of them?
What was it like what did you see from the complimentary pieces while you guys were going?
We needed some figuring out. You know, we were relying on Kev a lot, and he was doing a good job of scoring the basketball over multiple defenses. But, you know, that's where we can help him out, where, you know, hopefully you won't see those defenses, and if teams try to do that, you know, we'll definitely make them pay.
What are your first impressions of the in-season tournament, about courts and everything? And do you think that's people making too much emphasis on different color schemes and all that?
No, I love it. I think it looks crazier on TV, you know, than in person. In person, you know, I didn't mind the court, but then you're watching it on TV. But it's just something that's different, man. I think, you know, it's evolving the game, it's growing the game. I don't know the stat on it, but I feel like the games have been higher intensity, something to play for, maybe that $500,000 everybody wants. But it's been fun. I like it.
Yeah, with the Jay-Z being a theme here, I've noticed over time when they come into practices and shoot-arounds, is that something from you or some other?
You said Jay-Z?
Yeah, on the playlist.
You got good taste in here, man.
Do you guys circle those games? Those in-season?
Yeah. Yep. 500.
Really quick.
I don't think they would be the NBA if Jay-Z wasn't involved in some way, shape, or another, right?
He loves basketball.
Exactly. That is Devin Booker, who will be in the lineup tonight. I don't know if he'll start, but he will play for the Phoenix Suns. He and Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant for the first time. 7 o'clock start on that one. I guess if I want to watch that, I'm going to have to go out and watch it somewhere because, of course, there's still no deal between Arizona Family Sports and Comcast Xfinity, so I can't watch it at home because this is not a national TV game. So maybe I'll stay here and watch it on Cox because we get that here. So.
We haven't been able to watch the Suns game at our house in a long time.
So you were watching it how? You were
we have League Pass. So I have every single game.
Right.
I have both different broadcasts. So with League Pass, you have the option of tuning into either of the two
so
teams'
they block out the road too.
Both are blocked. Yeah.
Wow.
I do have some numbers for you.
Okay.
It's early, But apparently, viewership of the tournament games on League Pass is up 42%.
Wow.
Relative to regular season average of this season going forward. Also, just viewership in general is up. I'm guessing not due to the courts, though, because some of them are okay, but I think it's the Rockets court that's all red.
I know why it is.
Why is
Everybody has a J-Dub that drives them to watch the NBA, right?
Could be.
I told you that's probably the only reason I'm paying attention to the NBA right now at this point of the season is so I can kind of keep up with you.
Hey, I'll take credit for that for you. However, I think I give credit to the players. I said it a couple weeks back. I think the NBA product right now is as good as it's ever been. I mean, I grew up in the 80s. There was a lot of pride, a lot of guys who just did it for the sake of winning. I mean, if you had a chance to watch Larry and Magic go at it, right? The precursor to Jordan. Didn't matter what the play was. The play was made to win the game. It didn't matter. It wasn't about getting on a highlight reel. There was no such thing as top 10 at the time. So it was really all about winning. Jordan came around, top 10 fancy dunks and under the layups and reverses and all that became the hip thing. And then there was a whole group of players for a long time that really just practiced their up and unders, practiced trying to dunk over the top of three guys. And the fundamentals kind of went out, and the purpose for, it's really just about that win. Nowadays, I think it's come back full circle. I don't know if it's AAU, but I look at a guy like Jason Tatum and people like that coming in at 1920, fully formed with basically every counter move available, the entire package, really have the ability to go against whatever defense is throwing at them at such a young age. Luka Doncic still doesn't make sense to me. It does not make sense what he's able to do on a basketball court, and he's been doing it for 5 or 6 years now since he was 19. He's only 24, 25 now, and he's still just unbelievable level of skill, and it's just across the board. I just look at all the guys who've come in these last 5, 6, 8 classes, and the NBA's in really good hands. So if you like basketball in general, this isn't a sport. This isn't like it was 20, 25 years ago where everybody is trying to go one-on-one and dunk on people. The ISO moments of Harden and all of that of 8, 10 years ago, it's not like that anymore. Very few teams run that style because they watched who? They watched what the Warriors did. They watched that open style of trying to pass the ball around and look for the open shot and how successful that was if you put skilled players. And guess what? We talk positionless basketball. What does that mean? It means if you're 6'9" and you can handle the rock and you have a nice stroke and take it out to 22, 23 feet, you can play whatever position you want to play. Back in the day, it was you're 6'9", go in the post. It doesn't work like that anymore. So the league as a whole has gotten taller and longer and more skilled, and it's just a much, much better product than it was a decade or 20 years ago.
Absolutely. 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290. If you have thoughts on that, is the NBA better now than it was 20 years ago? When, like J-Dub said, it became a kind of a one-on-one highlight reel type of mentality for a lot of the young players coming into the league, many coming right out of high school back in the days, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with it as well, forcing kids to have to go to college and spend a few years developing themselves before coming right in, just coming right out of high school.
There's also, I didn't mention rule changes. Like, you're a Cavs fan. How were those Fratello years, right? I mean, when they were scoring 82 points a game.
Yeah.
Like in that whole era. I mean, that was late 90s, early 2000s. That was not that long ago.
Right.
So they got rid of all that. They've opened up the offense. I think it's a little too open. I think they give the offensive players way too much of the benefit of the doubt from the refereeing stand side. I'd like to see charges actually be called and things like that to even things out. But as far as the skill level across the board, there are more highly skilled guys in the NBA. That's why I brought up that under 25 list the other day. I think there's more highly skilled players in the NBA under the age of 25 than I've ever seen.
Well, and I think there's more shooters, too, than you had back in the day.
Of course.
Yeah, you have guys that can, pretty much everybody can shoot from behind the three-point arc now, whereas before it was just a few guys that specialized in that.
Thanks, Steph.
Exactly. All right, getting you home every 20 minutes on the fives with your traffic and your weather. Here's Christy.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, this is Wildcats Radio, 1290 traffic and weather together. We're still seeing quite a bit of slowing on I-10 westbound from Valencia to Palo Verde. Eastbound I-10 slowing from 6th Avenue to Keno Parkway, and also some slowing for I-10 westbound as you approach Ina Road. And we have a new collision for westbound Broadway just west of Alvernon Way, and a couple speed enforcement zones in the area of Oracle and River, also 5th and Stone. Tonight's overnight low 58 with a chance of isolated showers. It is currently 86 degrees outside, and I'm Christy with Wildcats Radio 1290 Traffic and Weather Together.
This report is sponsored by ChumbaCasino.com. With over a
3 words.
I feel better.
Bad time for stomach upsets? Good time for Pepto Kids Chewables. Fast relief for little tummies. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
DK on the Sports Tip on Wildcats Radio 1290.
All right, our Wildcats 1290 question of the day. We were talking earlier about the Arizona women's volleyball team, and you're going to hear from the seniors here coming up. They had their press conference today over at McHale Center as they get set to wrap up their season. They've got a couple of games at home. In fact, the final 3 games are at home. They'll play the Oregon schools this weekend at home, and then they'll take on Arizona State next week at home. But your question of the day, we mentioned Sofia Maldonado Diaz has a chance to come back for a 5th year, her super senior season. She's played 4 seasons, 3 falls and 1 spring, because her freshman year was the COVID spring of 2021 when there was no season in the fall. It got pushed to the spring. So it seems like she just got here because she played 2 seasons essentially in 2021, spring and fall, as a freshman and a sophomore. But the question of the day is, do you think Sofia Maldonado Diaz will return to the U of A in 2024 for her super senior volleyball season? Now, you may want to listen to this interview, this session, before you answer that question. But you can head on over to our Twitter page at Wildcats1290. We've got a poll up. Do you think Sofia Maldonado Diaz will return in 2024 for her super senior volleyball season? Yes is the answer. 1 more season. No, she will turn pro. You can also answer that question on our Facebook page at Wildcats Radio 1290. You can also call us with an answer. Let's hear from the seniors, Sofia Maldonado Diaz and Joy Gallus.
Senior day this week, but you're coming down to it 2 more weeks. What's it mean for both of you? I mean, just these 4 years.
I'm really excited for it. Not for the way of or the reason that we're done or living, but I'm excited that my family is gonna be here. I don't know, finishing with one really good team that is ASU. So also it's really fun every time we play against them. So it's not really because the senior night, but just playing against them, I really enjoy it. So I'm pretty excited.
I think for me, just having this senior year, I took a very different role than I had previous years, so it felt like it almost all went by super quickly, just because it was an adjustment for me already in the first place. But I also made a conscious decision before this season to really reflect on every travel trip and just enjoy every moment, because I love this group of girls. And so I've written things down throughout the season of just that I want to remember, and I'm thrilled for senior night. I'm excited to have my family in town, and we came here I think with 8 other recruits, and it's just the 3 of us now, and we've built a special bond too. So I'm just excited to finish it off strongly with my team.
What's one of those things you wrote down that you would be willing to share?
Well, just little moments. Honestly, I can't recall on the top of my head, but little things on bus trips. We had Journey, so funny. She's a good singer, and we were sing, and the whole small things like that I know that I'm gonna remember or want to remember for a long time.
What are some of maybe the places that you've been just within the U of A travel
Mm-hmm.
kind of stood out that you'll remember, maybe places you haven't been before?
I think Wisconsin was a big one for me, just playing the #1 school, and that environment was awesome. People were supportive, and I think it was fun for our group to play it at the highest level.
And you're waiting till after the season to decide what's up for you, Sofia?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna finish school here next semester. So next semester I'm coming back for school. After that, I just wanna talk with my family, as I said before, see what are the options, and then decide maybe, or during next semester or right after.
So you'll go through spring. Are you gonna train with them in spring?
Yeah, I think so, yes.
And what's next for you, Joy?
I'm just gonna wait it out as well. I am coming back for school in the spring. I am looking to take my 5th year, and where that is, I don't know yet. But I'm just kind of waiting, and I know that it'll feel right when I do decide.
What are some of your memories, Sofia? Places you've been, experiences you've had here as a Wildcat?
I think I don't know. I had the feeling every time we have a really close game or good wins, I can really remember every detail. Like against ASU, the last game last year, I remember every point. It was so good. It was so like close. So I think most of my memories are like in the court, and as Joy said, like in the trips or like in the bus, doing funny things. Those are my best memories, I think.
When Dave was recruiting you, City didn't think he really had a shot to get you to come here. Why did you decide that, first of all, you wanted to go to college, and second, why Arizona, and if it's been what you expected?
Well, I wanted to play in Pac-12. I knew Pac-12 was a really good conference. So it was one of the only options that I had from Pac-12. Also, I kind of decide fast, or late, if I can say that way. They recruited me. I don't know if it was the last recruit, I have no idea, but also I didn't know how the process of coming here was. I didn't have any help from my agent or something, so it was just me and my mom trying to pick one, and we knew about Arizona because another player, her name is Samantha, she played in USC. So we knew sometimes she was playing against Arizona, and I told my mom, oh, look, this is the Arizona that Samantha played against. And we knew this team was good. And I kind of decided like that. And when I did my best, I feel really comfortable. And of course, it's how I expected.
What do you love most about Joy, and Joy, what do you love most about Sofia?
You go first.
Well, we laugh a lot.
Yeah.
Every time we're laughing at each other, making jokes, and I don't know, even everything. She always talks, so it's something that we make fun of her, that she always has something to say, and it's pretty funny because Rita always says like she's in the wrong spot every time. She's saying the wrong things like in the wrong moment. So that's pretty funny too, and I think everyone knows. Now everyone knows, and we make fun of that. But I love it because even if we said that, she still does it, and I don't know. I love that. We always laugh, even in the court or off the court.
Yeah, I think it's funny because on paper we're pretty different on the court.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm kind of sporadic, all over the place, high energy, and she's more, like reserved, put together. But for some reason it just works well. Like I make her laugh. She makes me like she's funny in ways you wouldn't expect. Like she'll just come out with things that you definitely wouldn't expect from her. And I think that just over the time, as the more comfortable she's gotten, I think she's always been the same Sofia, but it was just more difficult for her to show because. But I think that she's pushed herself like out of her comfort zone, and we've pushed her too. We've almost not really given her an option. So I just think, I really enjoy playing with Soph, and she's taught me a lot on the court already. But we just really do have a good time together. We're always laughing. Yeah. We're always laughing.
When you first came here, like Izzy translated for you, and how's that whole process been, just being able to talk to people?
The first time you came, and I tried to speak Spanish to you in the car.
Okay, my first day here in Tucson, they picked me up from the airport with Joy, and I kind of understood a little bit of English. Like I could understand, but the thing was talking. Like I couldn't talk, and that they was trying to translate everything Dave said, and I was like, yes, but like, I don't know.
Because he asked the team, he was like, does anyone speak Spanish? And I'm like, yeah, I really didn't. But I was a freshman, and no one was raising their hand, and I was like, all right, I can do it, because I speak Portuguese, so I was like, yeah, I can figure it out, and I knew Spanish. I really thought I did know Spanish, honestly, in the moment. And so I go there, I'm like doing my thing, I'm talking to Sofia, we're getting to know her. I thought I was. And then I get back and Rita was like, Sofia told me that she didn't understand a thing you said the whole time. And I was like, sorry, what? And then in front of the whole team, Sofia was like, yeah,
Sorry,
I had no idea what you said.
no.
But yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's it.
Well, it was pretty hard at the beginning, but with Izzy, she was amazing. She knew how to explain me everything, so she didn't need to explain it twice. And also, she was listening to every detail. She was asking all the questions before telling me what to do. So any question that I had, she already asked it before. So she already knew what to say. It was pretty hard, really, really hard. I couldn't talk with any of them, really, and I was just imitating what Jalen or the Pains were doing because I didn't know what the drills were. Even if they said the instructions, I was like, just do it, and I will see and do it again. And but I think in this case, Dave was really patient with me. Even anytime he wanted to say feedback or things like that, he will wait until the end of practice, tell Izzy, and then tell me. So I think not just as a player was hard, but I think as a coach and stuff, as a teammates was hard too. And I don't know, I'm really grateful for how patient were they and how much they helped me on that.
How long did it take you to kind of pick up yourself in terms of the communication?
Well, I came in August, so that semester, that fall semester was really hard, especially because we didn't have season because of COVID. We had it in the spring, and it was just practice, instructions, all that. So I was just like, I'm sorry, I cannot. I had tutors, I have all that, but also with COVID, with the mask, Dave was like trying to put his mask off every time to talk to me, so I could a little bit understand. I don't know. So that was also a hard situation. But then on season, once you're playing and you're doing the things good, there's not much that the coaches need to tell you. So Dave, he would give me feedback, but it's not as much as practice, because in the games it's just play free, do your thing, That's something that he will always say, like, just play, good, do your thing, and then I'll tell you after. Or he will send me videos with the message. So, of course, it was easier to me reading this stuff than listening to it.
What do you guys want over these last couple weeks together?
I think we want to keep winning.
Yeah.
Season didn't go as plans in terms of wins and losses, and I think we got our groove. We really did. We moved past some things this past weekend. I think that there's times where we'll make an error and then we'll continue to make errors and kind of get ourselves in a hole and beat ourselves. And I think that this time that we were just way more composed and we really wanted it. There was fight and we competed, and obviously it wasn't all pretty and clean, but I think that us pushing past that was something we hadn't done before. And so I think that if we can continue on the trend and keep doing that in practice for the last 10 days that we really need to, I think that we're gonna win, and that's what we want to do. Yeah.
All right, those are the seniors from the Arizona Volleyball team. We'll hear more from them. They had a really nice press conference today over at McHale Center. Joy Gallus, Sofia Maldonado Diaz. We'll get into hearing a little bit more about, again, what their future may hold and how the number one prospect in the country, Carly Cisneros' arrival here on campus, could potentially play into that. More of that coming up in the next hour. This is DK on the Sports Tip with J.W. Madden and Christy in for cricket on this Wednesday. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, this is Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together. We have a couple collisions in the clearing stages. Orange Grove Road and Skyline Drive also clearing. Broadway Boulevard just west of Alvernon Way. We're still seeing quite a bit of slowing for I-10 westbound from Valencia to Palo Verde, I-10 westbound as you approach Ina Road, and I-10 eastbound from 6th Avenue to Keno Parkway. Tonight's low 58 degrees with a chance of isolated showers. Tomorrow's high 77. It's currently 83 degrees outside, and I'm Christy with Wildcats Radio, 1290 traffic and weather together.
This report is sponsored.
Live from the CNWT.
From the what? Central Northwest Tucson, duh.
It's DK on the Sports Tip with your host, David Kelly.
Radio. Just when I thought I was out, they drug me back in.
Featuring J.W. Madden.
Don't tell me about flip-flops, man. I'm a native.
And Cricket getting you home with traffic and weather.
Camp on Melt Lemon, not in the left lane on the freeway.
Here we go! And now man who has not one, but 3 first names, David Scott Kelly.
Final hour of the program on this Wednesday. Major League Baseball handing out their awards as they continue to do so. My guy, Skip Schumacher, was named National League Manager of the Year yesterday. That was a day after the Diamondbacks' Corbin Carroll won the the National League Rookie of the Year. And we've just found out that Blake Snell is the American League Cy Young Award winner for this year.
Third
time he's won it.
Nope. Third is where Zach Gallen finished.
Oh. So
Blake Snell, Logan Webb finished second. He got
So Blake Snell is the National League, I'm sorry.
Yes, NL Cy Young. Blake Snell, 28 first place votes, 2 second. Logan Webb finished with 1 first place vote and 17 seconds. Zach Gallen from the Arizona Diamondbacks, 1 first place vote, 3 second, and 11 thirds. He comes up in third place.
And in fact, Blake Snell is, I believe, the 7th pitcher now in history, because that's why I was confusing myself, because I'm so used to him winning it with the Tampa Bay Rays. But he is now the 7th pitcher in Major League history to win it in both leagues. Win it in the National League and win it in the American League. So
it says here, fewest innings per start of any Cy Young winner.
Wow.
Only 5.6 innings average per start.
Gets a $1 million bonus for that. Not a bad way to make some extra cash, for sure.
So the NBA guys, they get $500,000 for winning the in-season tournament. This guy only gets $1 million for winning the Cy Young. How's that work?
Right. Exactly. So congratulations to Blake Snell. Unfortunately, Zach Gallen. I just think, Zach Gallen's struggles down the end of the season hurt him. I mean, he was by far the best pitcher through the middle of the season, but it's how you finish in sports that cost him there.
Yeah, including the All-Star game, right? I mean, he was the best pitcher in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
So that includes the first
by
half,
far.
Tail end of the first half.
By far. All right, we got a lot to get through in this next hour here. I do want to update you. We mentioned before we went into the last segment, our question of the day. Do you think Sofia Maldonado Diaz from the Arizona Volleyball team will return for her super senior season in 2024? If she returns, you've got one of the best hitters in the Pac-12 coming in with the number 1 recruit in the nation. Imagine those two as your pins. Right now, 71% saying yes. Sofia Maldonado Diaz will return for one more season. 29% saying no. She will turn pro. We will hear more from Sofia and Joy about what potentially their futures may hold here coming up. But first, Cricket's not here today, so I've got the tickets.
DK's got tickets.
I've got the tickets. And I've got tickets right now to see your Tucson Roadrunners play Friday night against Coachella Valley at the Tucson Arena. I got a 4-pack of tickets to see the Roadrunners, and those are going to go to caller number 2, 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290 right now. If you are the second caller to that number, you're going to get a 4-pack of tickets to see the Tucson Roadrunners take on the Coachella Valley. I'm not sure. I think it's the Firebirds, maybe. I don't know off the top of my head what their name is. But they were the team that knocked the Roadrunners out of the postseason last year. So we got some get back on them. And the Roadrunners are back home this weekend. They will play Coachella Valley, and we will also have some tickets tomorrow for you. Cricket will be back. Cricket will have the tickets. She just handed them off to me for today, but she'll be back, and she'll have the tickets for you tomorrow. We'll have another 4-pack of tickets, so always listen for the cue to call, 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290. Right now, it is caller number 2 to that number, picking up a 4-pack of tickets. Right now, the Roadrunners, through 11 games, are 7-4. It's a very good division.
Michael.
A very good division this year, the Pacific Division. All right, let's go to the phones. Michael, you are on DK on the Sports Tip, Wildcats Radio 1290. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to have these tickets.
All right, Michael, are you a hockey fan?
I absolutely am. I try to go as many games as I can every season.
Okay, so what's your? Do you have an NHL team that you follow?
I try to follow the Penguins.
Did you not win once before, Michael? I swear we had a Penguin fan on, or maybe just everybody's a Penguin.
Hey, there's
fan.
a lot of Penguin fans out there, man.
It's an easy team to like, man.
Okay,
They're
right.
consistently decent.
All right, very good, very good. So let me ask you this question: since you're a hockey fan, I'm sure you heard about the tragic incident that happened overseas where the player was killed.
Yeah.
His neck got sliced by the skate, and now they're talking about neck guards. What do you think about that?
From a safety perspective, I think it's a great idea, but it's, how much mobility is that going to intrude for the players when they're on the ice? So I think it should be a voluntary thing is what I think it should be.
Yeah, and I think I absolutely agree with that. I think any type of protective device should be, except for a helmet in football. I think everybody has to wear that. But I think in a lot of accessory protective devices should definitely be your choice to participate in or not to participate.
They passed some rules like right after, right? And it's the lower division. It's not necessarily the highest division, but they passed some rules
league over there. Yeah,
right after it happened.
Right after that happened, they did, and now they're talking potentially about it in the AHL. Now I don't know how quickly they would implement that, but we'll have to.
But I mean, it's like the idea with like Damar Hamlin getting going to cardiac arrest from a hit. It's a freak accident that happens.
Yeah.
The chances are 1 in a billion, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, clearly we're talking about a really hard surface, ice. We're talking about sharp metal objects. I mean, I think that threat has always been there. It's such an unusual. I mean, how many games have we all watched and never seen anything like that before? However, that risk, I think it's more about the idea that when you fall, kicking your feet up for a human is a natural instinct. But when you've got sharp blades on your feet, that has to be a training that goes forward to train players don't, excessively kick that leg up just because of that risk.
Right.
But it looks like in that video that the guy kind of purposely meant to make not slice with his neck, but make contact, be able to throw him off his feet at least. You know what I mean? Like.
That's the question.
Yeah, and I think I haven't seen the video, but when I saw that the player was being charged, I think that there clearly was they felt there was some type of intent there.
Found a bit of prior instances where he might have done some similar things, and that's what they're talking about right now.
Yeah, it's just
I guess they're saying that he's like the dirtiest player in one of the dirtiest players in that particular league.
Yeah, so in other words, he's the goon of all goons.
Exactly.
He's the Draymond Green of that league.
Exactly.
All right, Michael, you got to stay on the line so I can get your information, okay?
Stay on the line, Michael.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks
Thank you
for calling. All right, that's Michael. I think my camera, if you're watching on our screen, I think my camera is frozen right now. I am not moving. I am frozen if you're watching me on any of these streams. J-Dub is not frozen. He just waved his hands, but my camera appears to be frozen. All right, I want to go back to the ladies here real quick, and we hear more from the Arizona Volleyball seniors, Sofia Maldonado Diaz and Joy Gallus, who spoke today. Joy Gallus was asked about her professional aspirations. Let's hear more from the ladies.
Definitely wait and see how this next year goes for sure. I think that if I continue improving as a player, and I love the sport, if my body allows me to, I think if it's an opportunity that presents itself, I would absolutely take it. I wouldn't say I have the same exposure as Soph does of just growing up in the volleyball environment and that kind of being her main aspiration for a long time. I think I have a little bit of a different situation. With that being said, it's my dream to live in Europe. I'm going to go back there as soon as I'm done. I love Barcelona, and I love being there. So I think that if that's how I need to get there first, it's what I'm going to do. And if not, I'll find another way to live in Europe. So that's what I want to do. Yeah.
This question go for both of you guys. Obviously, this season, like you said, wins and losses hasn't gone your way. But what's one thing you guys can each take away to apply to your future?
Oh, that's a great question. I was actually thinking about that, answering that. But so Rita sent us a text the other day. It was like, she was thinking about how, oh yeah, we wanted to go to the tournament. We had high aspirations for this season, but she made a good point of you can't really like stay at the top if you don't go through adversity first to get there, because you won't know how to deal with it once you're there. And I think it's true. It's been a lot of conversations in the locker room that haven't gone our way after a game, and it's hard on the heart and on the mind to go in every day at practice. And it's been a hard season in that sense, but what I've learned is if you're doing it around the right people, it makes it so much easier. Like I have loved going into practice every day and game day and traveling, and I love our team. I think we have such an incredible group of girls, and I've always said that, but not every team gets that, and it's been so great to go through something hard with we stayed so respectful and caring, and when you're losing that much, that can be really hard for a team. You want to call each other out and hold each other accountable and all that stuff, but we've done it in a respectful way. And I think that shows a lot of maturity and maybe growth as well for our team.
Yeah, I think once you have the results that you didn't look for, or like like in our case, it's hard. It's easy to let down, like, to give up. Like, okay, I'm done. I'm just gonna finish. But I think this team, you can see in practice that even now we're pushing more than before. Mm-hmm. And now I don't know if it's also like the confidence in between each other that we can now say like, Joy, push now. Like, you gotta play good. You gotta play defense. I don't know. And I think that's something that I really learned from this season, being in that role of leadership and trying to take that role too. Even if there was one game, it was pretty hard for me. And I said like, well, I didn't do my job, but like at least I was trying to help you with other things that I saw, things that like with the middles, I was just trying like, okay, if you set me and I'm not scoring every time, I'm just not gonna make the error, and then I'm gonna help Jordan and Jalen to, okay, say like, you have the tip here, or just go high hand. I don't know. So that's something that I really, really learned, and I was talking also with my dad about it, and he said like, I think that's the moment that I think you grow. Like once you don't see by individually